The word authentic has been bandied around a lot, but I think of authentic materials as materials that are tailored for a native speaking audience. For example, if you watch, say, the nightly news or a movie, well, that's for a native or native-like speaking audience. That's who it's written for. Okay, the biggest advantage, of course, is it's the real world. The real world is very different from the classroom. So we tend to speak in phrases, and a lot of times people you speak to outside the classroom, people who aren't your teachers are not going to be grammatically correct, or they might use non-standard vocabulary. But the students need to be prepared for that. As they need to be prepared for a lot of things, like, for example, the slang that's often used, the things that we do in everyday English when we speak, like hesitations, fillers, backtracking, repetition, of course the rate of speech. They're going to be exposed to all kinds of accents, and they've got a lot of challenges ahead that we need to prepare them for with authentic materials. I think the major disadvantage is that I wouldn't use authentic materials or in a very limited scale for, say, false beginners or low intermediate students, because it doesn't take much to be overwhelming for them. And also, just in general, be aware that even for the intermediate class, say a high intermediate class, I'm all for authentic materials, but you have to be careful, because obviously we've learned from Krashen and others that the goal is to, we want to challenge them, but we don't want to overwhelm them. One thing that's really important is to make it brief, or that the material that you choose is, for example, if it's listening, usually with our audio recordings, it's anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes tops, because the linguistic fatigue really sets in, and it's amazing how many words someone can utter in a minute. Video clips can be anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, 6 minutes, but generally I wouldn't go longer. Another thing that's really important is that the materials you find are free, because obviously they're all the copyright laws, and so we need to find something. Public domain is important, and in our case, I've learned through the years that there really is a lot of free stuff, like with government.gov or .mil. Just .mil, there's so many things now, and occasionally we will find something that has a copyright or isn't .mil or .gov, but if we really want to use it, we'll ask. Now that it's so much easier, we can just send an email and ask for permission. And, in the old days we had to send a formal letter, and it usually wasn't worth it. But definitely, if something just stands out, I would do that. Okay, another characteristic is high interest. I mean, obviously the goal is not only for the students to learn, but if they're engaged, they will learn a lot more quickly and a lot more. So that's really important. And along with high interest is something that's both timely and timeless, because you want to be timely, but at the same time, in our case, when we write a textbook, we can't completely redo a textbook all the time. I mean, it's several years before we can get to it again, and so we've got to put in material that is going to stand the test of time. It's also really important, obviously, with what you have, to develop activities around that are communicative or highly interactive, and it's amazing how, for example, some recordings you might think at first before listening to it, oh gee, this is never going to work, it was sort of boring, or others that, oh, this guy's really dynamic, but it doesn't always work that way. It's just amazing how some recordings you don't expect much from, and they have some really neat things in there.